Hey guys, Darcy here. Trust that you can hear me. There does tend to be just a slight delay on this. So once I start talking, you guys start hearing me, just say, "Hey, Darcy," give me a yell. Special shout out to our American viewers that are on the call with us tonight. So most people here are from Melbourne, Australia, Sydney, Australia, but we've actually got some guys all the way from San Antonio that are jumping on the call with us tonight, which is really cool. Huge shout out to them. We'll probably have plenty of Aussies coming through with saying hello to you guys as well. And I want to welcome you here to this webinar. Many of you may have worked with me before. For those of you that haven't, it's very nice to meet you. I'm a sales trainer specializing in what's known as the Tonal Persuasion method. And obviously that's what we're here to learn about tonight. So essentially, the reason I'm here, the reason that I'm so passionate about helping you is because the current modern business landscape that we're living in basically tells us that we need to be able to create massive levels of relationships with our buyers and massive levels of trust with our buyers in a way that inspires them to buy our product. And typically, you guys will know this. If you're on this webinar, you're most likely looking for a way to sell that means that you don't have to revert back to that hard sell, that idea of forcing our product upon people in order to actually make a sale. And you get that. So if you know what I'm talking about, you'll realize that sort of gross feeling that you get in your guts when you need to do something like that. And the truth is that it just doesn't have to be that way in the modern business landscape anymore. And so that's basically what I'm here to teach you. I'm here to teach you how to persuade people into making great buying decisions that mean that not only do they use your product, but they'll love it and then also tell their friends and family about it as well. Not necessarily because of the product, and I'm sure what you are selling is fantastic as well, but it's also the experience that people have when they buy. I trust that you guys can remember a moment in time, perhaps previously, where you've had just a great buying experience with someone. They've really taken care of you. They've recognized your needs. They've asked you basically just the perfect questions all around to make sure that you're completely taken care of as a customer. I can almost guarantee that if you've experienced something like that, the thought of going to anyone else to buy whatever you bought with that person, it doesn't even enter your mind. So us as salespeople or us as business owners that are selling our own thing, or if we're commission-based salespeople, the idea that we give our buyers such an extraordinary buying experience is what will keep them coming back and ensuring that they bring their friends and family along too. And I trust that that is something you guys want to learn. And every now and then I'm just going to click back and just refresh the questions and things like that in the comments that come on through here. So if that's what happens, then that's essentially what I'm doing, just managing the questions here. So we've got Vanessa. Vanessa, it's great to have you on the call. I've seen you like you've been popping up all over the the Facebook pages and everything like that. It's great to have you on the call. And so let's get stuck into it. Essentially, where I've come from, guys, is I've worked a lot in the personal development industry, sold a lot of coaching sort of stuff. And what I have found is that a lot of the selling methodologies or the concepts that hook into basically why people are making decisions is highly relevant in the personal development field as it is in the buying field and the human decision-making field. And so by being able to converse between the two, I don't even know if that's the right word, I just said converse between the two, but being able to maybe traverse between the two, that's probably the word I was looking for, and actually combine them in a way that ensures people are making great decisions. That's what we're actually here to help you with tonight. Now, the Tonal Persuasion method itself it's essentially a live training, and if it's okay with you guys, I'll let you guys know about a bit more about that later on. If that's cool with you, if you want to know more about that, just quickly type a yes in there and we'll go for it later on. But essentially, it's a live training that shows you how to ensure your buyer is creating a great decision for them. And they will never, if you use the Tonal Persuasion method properly, they'll never walk away feeling sold to. They'll feel as though they made a great buying decision. And what you'll often find is that if someone feels that way, they will own the decision and they'll absolutely use your product and service so much more often than if they feel that it was sold to them, if that makes sense, okay? Now, in the modern selling landscape, our buyers are essentially looking for what they can get for nothing. You guys will notice if you're ever on, and this webinar is an example of one, if you're scrolling through Facebook or if you're on social media in general, particularly if you're on your mobile phone, say you're laying in bed at night and you're just on your phone and you're flicking through. I know I stay up all hours doing that. But basically, if you're scrolling on through and something doesn't capture your attention, it's just out of your reality with the flick of your thumb. And so it's never been more possible as a buyer to basically disregard anything that doesn't capture our attention from the start. Because it basically, with the swipe of our thumb or a scroll on the computer, we just get rid of anything that we don't want to pay attention to. So basically, if you are in your own business and you're selling, then you need to be able to say to your buyer, you need to pay attention to me. And the way that you actually do that is you show them ultimate value. You show them premium value in a way that says you need to take notice of me because I'm here to offer you massive value. And if you don't do that, your buyer or your ideal buyer, your potential buyer, will simply just move on to the next person that has decided that they can show that, if that makes sense. I trust that makes sense for you guys, okay? Now, you need a way to give value to your buyers in a way that no other competitor can rise to. And this is, if you guys are taking your notes and you're writing stuff down, this is where the game is played here. You guys want to know what is the knowledge and expertise, or what is the personal quality that you have, particularly if you're the face of your business, or if you are very much in line, if you're congruently aligned with the identity of what it is that you actually sell, so to speak. You want to be able to know, what is my unique selling point as a human being? What is the knowledge and expertise that I have that I can give to others that no one else can do as well as me, or no one does it in the same way that I do it, okay? The important thing is here, it doesn't necessarily need to be better. It just needs to be different, because at the end of the day, we pay attention to that which is different. It's very deep-seated in our emotional and evolutionary-wise biological thinking, is that we pay attention to those things that snap into our awareness really quick, because we want to know whether it's a threat or whether it's going to help us or hinder us, and the fight or flight kicks in. All of that evolutionary psychology stuff, all that really cool stuff that I actually love. I shouldn't refer to it as just stuff. I've spent my life researching and I absolutely love it, but it's basically that concept. And you need to be able to show your buyer that, hey, you need to continue to pay attention to me because I'm going to continue to give you value. And the way that I'm going to do that is be different from other people that are basically probably, giving you the same thing more or less, okay? Now, I know that there's probably a number of coaches on this call. I think that seeing the registration list, there was a number of people I saw in the coaching industry that are on this call. Basically, you guys need to decide what is your unique selling point that you can offer that no one else can. Where's the knowledge and the expertise come in that you can deliver with your own unique value, okay? Point number one. If you've got a pen and paper, write that down, guys. Or if you don't take notes, just make sure that you remember that one because it's highly important. Just flicking back to manage the questions here. A few coming through. Okay, let's go. Questions are coming through. They are working. That's fantastic. So I've just got a heaps of hey, Darcy, and we've got lots of yes, pleases. That's awesome. Coming through. Hey, Maureen, great to have you on the call as well. Frank says, never has the buyer had so much power to say, impress me. That's so true, Frank. Really well said, man. I love it. Okay, so flicking back here, what you want to be aware of, okay, is the 3 reasons that your buyers aren't buying from you, okay? There's 3 main reasons. Now, knowing this is going to be able to set you up, not necessarily to have to force the hard sell on your buyer, but it's going to be able to set you up to ensure that they're making a great decision with you, okay? What you want to know is that if they aren't buying you, it's buying from you, it's for 3 reasons, particularly if it's one of the first times that you've actually made contact with them, okay? The first one is that they don't see you as a trusted advisor, or they don't see you as an authority on the concept, the strategy, the process, the product, the service, the idea. They don't see you as a trusted advisor on that factor. This will most likely happen when, if you're say if you've got a sales team working for you and they're a new one, particularly a shout out to those American guys that I was chatting about earlier. You guys, hope you guys are loving the call. But essentially, if you are essentially if you're an American, essentially if you are new to the product or service and you're out there calling new people and they've never met you before, the major reason they won't buy is because they don't have any reason to trust you yet, okay? We're about to give them a reason, but one of the main reasons they won't buy yet is because they don't see you as a trusted advisor or as an authority, okay? Perfect is, we will do anything, guys. We will do anything that an authority in the right position is basically telling us to do. If a policeman pulls you over, you're damn right you pull over. You know, if a doctor tells you that there's a certain disease that needs to be taken care of, you believe them 100%. You don't even question it, okay? So if you're in a trusted advisor position as a salesperson and you tell someone to make a decision, if they see you as an authority enough, you can be damn sure that they'll actually move forward with that decision, and they'll feel great about it. They'll feel as though it's a great decision to move forward with because it came from an authority. Cool? Now, the next thing is that because the buyer didn't feel as though there was unconsciously or consciously, they didn't feel as though there was a fair value exchange between what you're offering and what they perceive as though they need to pay, okay? Now, remember we spoke about before, the idea that we are always looking for something for nothing, okay? It's so easy these days to just go online, compare prices, compare offers, compare services and products, and basically if they can find a better way or a cheaper way to get the same thing, then they're going to go for that fairer value. They're going to see fairer value in that, and they'll go for that one over your thing, okay? So it's your job as a salesperson to ensure that throughout the buying experience, they are realizing that they are receiving fair value exchange. And I tell you what, it's not even fair value exchange anymore. It's that they're getting even more than what they're actually paying for, okay? So whatever they pay, they want to receive more and more over and above that. Okay, it's in the buyer's mind these days. We've all been there. The power belongs to the buyer so much more these days than it did 10, 15 years ago, okay? The buyer knows fair value when they see it and when they feel it within themselves, okay? And the third one here, which is the buyer doesn't believe that it is in line with their identity, okay? It's not in purchasing your product or your service or going ahead with your cool thing. They don't perceive it to be in line with their identity. And what I'm going to actually teach you tonight is how to overcome all three of those through a 4-step process that you can just loop over and over and over again throughout the conversation in a way that is continuously adding value that helps them realize that they should buy with you, okay? At no point throughout this process do you need to feel as though you are forcing your product upon someone. You are continuously adding value and therefore giving them more than enough reason to buy your product. Cool? Trust that that makes sense. Again, I'm just going to check any comments that are rolling on through here. Let's go here. Refresh that one. Okay. So the questions coming through, we've got Tash says hello. Great to have you on the call, Tash. Awesome to have you here. So let's just keep going. We've just got a few people saying hello. All right. Okay. So those are the three reasons, the main reasons that your customer won't buy. Okay. Now here's where the solution is. A lot of people will see this method as a way of adding value. So you're adding education to your buyer. A lot of people will perceive it as, you know what? Whenever I'm having sales conversations, I do this anyway. I'm always adding value. I'm always adding education. Okay. One of the steps in this process is to strategically add pieces of information, pieces of knowledge, pieces of education that show that you're an expert, a trusted expert, okay? Now, what you're gonna find is that a lot of people will be like, no, I do this anyway. I'm sure that I do it. I always fill educational gaps. That's how I sell. That's just a normal part of what I do. And the truth is that you probably do. And that's fantastic. It's a great start. But you wanna be able to realize how to actually do it in a way and do it in an ordered way that shows your potential buyer massive value, okay? The problem that a lot of people actually get into when they're giving education or giving knowledge and expertise throughout a sales conversation, what they'll often do is they'll do it at times where it's not strategically valuable, and it doesn't have the impact that it could have had if it was said at a different point in the conversation. And that's a really, really cool distinction that I want to actually teach you again in this webinar as well tonight, okay? Now, what you want to be aware of is that if you are able to solve lower level problems, so educational gaps, what you do is you actually gain permission to have the conversation with the person that actually says, I'm here to sell to you, okay? Has anyone had that experience where you're sitting around, you're watching TV, maybe you're having dinner, the doorbell knocks and you just have this sinking feeling that it's a salesperson coming to sell you some electricity deal that you don't want to hear about, okay? The reason that you often don't really want to hear about it is because that person that is knocking on the door, you unconsciously believe that they haven't gained the permission to be knocking on your door. What gave them the right to come here and try and sell me something while I'm having my own alone time, okay? these are the reasons that you're actually quite annoyed with them. It's not because they interrupted dinner, it's because they didn't gain permission yet, okay? If it was one of your best friends knocking at the door, you'd answer the door and you'd be pretty stoked. They've had, say, 10, 20, 30 years of gaining permission to be the guy or the chick that just rocks up at the door and says hello, okay? So doing this through the sales conversation, you're going to show how you gain permission in order to actually sell your product. Cool? And you're able to gain permission that allows you to ask for money in return. In fact, it's more than that, because it actually allows you to not only ask for money, but your buyer will actually be looking for the opportunity to give you something back, okay? They'll actually, either through money or referral, they'll actually feel unconsciously as though they want to give back to you, okay? And that comes into the law of behavioral reciprocity, which we're going to talk about in 2 seconds, all right? 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to have a drink of water. Cool, thank you. So when someone is receiving value, there's a couple of reasons why this really works really well, okay? When someone is receiving value, they'll continue to search for more value, okay? Let me explain that for you. If you're in the middle of an outstanding movie, or if you're watching a sports match, anything like that, if you're in the middle of an awesome conversation and you're receiving value of some form from that, the last thing you want to do is actually move away from that situation that is giving you so much value, okay? We as people, when we're receiving value, we continue to search for more of that value. Therefore, if you are having a valuable conversation and you're adding heaps of knowledge, you're adding heaps of value to the person that you're selling to, and when I say selling to, they're buying with you in this situation, because it's very, very, very much, it's an equal exchange going on here when you run this process, is that they will continue to want to have more and more of the conversation with you. They'll continue to want more and more of the value, okay? The second thing is that when someone is receiving value, they also become more agreeable. If I have told you 5 things in a row that make great sense and they're really applicable to your life, and you can just see how it maps out, you can see, yeah, he's giving me great value, I can see how that works, and that's just bang, bang, bang. Everything he's saying is spot on. If I tell you 5 things that work really well in your life and then tell you a 6th thing, you are highly, highly likely to agree with the 6th thing that I've just told you, okay? It's what's called an agreement frame that you can gain with a client to show them. Again, this isn't just to trick them into buying your thing. This is to show them, hey, I know what I'm talking about, okay? I do know that what I'm actually telling you is something of value. That's why I'm here. That's why we're having this conversation, okay? The next reason it works is because of what's known as behavioral consistency, okay? People will unconsciously agree with anything that they've agreed to previously in a conversation, okay? So if 10 seconds into the conversation, you tell me that you love sports, and then I come to you later on, an hour later or something like that, and start talking to you about sports, you will continue that conversation with me because you've told me previously that it's something that you value, okay? Now, in the sales conversation, it works, and it can get a bit sort of, specific here around your particular industry or your particular product or service. But if someone has agreed early on in a conversation that a part of your product or service is important in their life, when it comes to bringing it up later on, they are more likely to agree later on that, yeah, you're right, I actually do need that thing, okay? Even if they've forgotten 10 minutes earlier that they even said it, okay? Unconsciously it is remembered, and unconsciously it will be agreed to 10 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week later, okay? I highly suggest, if you guys got a pen and paper again, the book Influence by Cialdini is massive on this. It's a really, really cool book. I believe it's the 1st or 2nd chapter is actually on behavioral consistency, but we're actually applying it to a sales-specific conversation here, okay? Cool. The Behavioral Reciprocity Act as well, also something from Cialdini, he touches on it as well, is the idea that people are obliged to return a favor that has been given to them previously, okay? Now, here's the thing. If you are adding massive value to someone and you are giving them gold after gold after gold of educational pieces, you're filling gaps for them, and you're doing it in a manner that is according to this step-by-step process that is ensuring you're doing it at the right times of the conversation, people will feel obliged to return the favor, okay? If I've given you massive value, you will feel the need to either well, basically you will repay that value either through actually buying a product, or you will refer a friend or a family, anything like that, anything to make it back up unconsciously. And people do this without even actually realizing that they're doing it, okay? Because us as people, we're herd animals. We have a herd mentality. We have a tribal mentality that says, if someone looks after me, I'm going to look after them. Once again, very deep-seated in our emotional, biological, and evolutionary biases that have been with us for tens, hundreds of thousands of years, okay? Once again, just going to check back on these questions that are flooding through. 2 ticks, guys. Cool. All right. All right. Just refresh this page here for you guys. So I trust that this is making sense. Now, if you do have any questions, just continue to send them on through. I know that I'm talking a lot. It's giving you a lot of information, giving you a lot of value, but the best thing to do is actually just keep asking the questions, okay? And they are flooding on through, okay? Monty, great. Monty, great to have you on the call as well. Stevens, cool. Steven says, so that building a relationship, is that the only way to make a sale? At the end of the day, it's got a lot to do with the idea of the relationship can contain the sale, but the sale, you know, it's not made without a relationship, okay? Trust that that makes sense. And we've got, what happens if I solve their issue and then they don't buy? Should I leave them wanting? I'm about to actually get through to that in the process for you as well. Really cool question there, man. Like it. All right. Next one. Moving on through. Okay, so what you want to know is the big how, okay? The 4 steps to actually how this actually works, okay? What you want to do is find a gap that can be filled with knowledge. This is your step 1, okay? Find a gap that can be filled with knowledge alone, your knowledge and expertise alone. Now, this means basically that it is a gap that can be filled that doesn't rely on them buying or purchasing a product or service in order to solve the problem just yet, okay? That's not what we're here to do just yet, okay? We're here to just find a gap that in their knowledge that they don't know about the industry that we're in, okay? So you want to be simple examples of this are just, you know, if you say, let's just say you sell IT equipment, and the person just says, you know, you're having a conversation about what they want, what are their needs. Obviously, you've built rapport by this stage, okay? And basically, you want to be able to just say to them, cool, so what is it that you're after? Tell me a bit more about what you're after. And they say, well, I don't know. I'm after a PC or a Mac. I don't know. I'm sort of wondering, you know, how that all fits in. And basically, you've found a gap that said that you're basically in your industry. If you're an expert, you'll know that the gap there is they don't know the difference between a Mac and a PC, okay? Or if the person says, yeah, I'm just after a printer so that I can scan all my stuff, right? And I'm making it really obvious here where there are knowledge gaps. But your mind should just go ding, ding, ding. There is a gap in their information that I can fill right here with my knowledge and start to add value to them, okay? So once you've found an emotional gap, once again, there's coaches on the call here as well that I've noticed as a common pattern. So for you guys, if you are human behavior coaches or if you're motivational coaches, if you are having a conversation with someone and they start to tell you about an issue coming up in their life, basically what they're telling you is that they have an informational gap that they can't fill. They don't know how to fill this gap yet, okay? And so, because if they did, then they'd be more motivated, or they'd overcome that challenge that they're having, all right? So find a gap that can be filled with knowledge alone. And if you can't find one, keep asking really curious questions until the point that you do, okay? The next step is to build emotional experience around the problem, okay? Build emotional experience around the idea that they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. Like, that's not necessarily what you want to tell them. That's the mindset you want to be in with this. But build emotional experience around the problem in a way that shows them that if this gap in knowledge isn't filled, then it's going to start to cost them, okay? Or if they do have the emotional experience around this and they have an emotional experience around the gap and you're able to fill it, then it's going to highly impact them in a positive way, okay? Build emotional experience around the problem, either positive or negative. So negative if it isn't filled, and positive if once it is filled, what it's actually going to mean for them moving forward, okay? Now, the way that you do this, I'll get into that in a tick. Step 3 is to solve the problem completely, okay? Now, this is where it differs from traditional sales trainings that might tell you to sell at people, get them over the line, just build the emotion and just then present the product and you'll get them over the line, okay? Now, what's going to happen is that instead of actually doing that, instead of forcing your product onto people then, so they've found a gap, they're feeling emotional about it, then you go, hey, you better buy my product or else you're going to continue to feel emotionally involved that way, where, you know, perhaps if it's a negative way or anything like this. You want to actually go ahead and solve the problem for them completely. You actually want to solve the gap with your knowledge in a way that says, hey, I see that you had a knowledge there, a knowledge gap there. I see that it's actually going to start to affect you if you don't overcome this. I tell you what, here's the entire solution for you right here, okay? Because here's the thing, if someone is going into, say, a computer store, or they're having a sales conversation, or if you sell, you know, if the person knows that you're there to sell to them, essentially what they're waiting for is your pitch. They're sitting there waiting for, okay, when is this person going to actually ask me for the money? And if you be the person that actually goes ahead and solves their problem for them completely, they're taken back because they're just like, wow, this person actually cares about my needs and desires. They're not here to just sell at me. They're actually here to make sure that I get the right product or I get the right service and I pay the right price for it, okay? Now, what's starting to happen here by this step is that if you're solving the problem, you're starting to notice the person is starting to see you as, remember those 3 things we spoke about before. They're starting to see you as a trusted advisor on the situation. They're starting to see you as someone that is essentially someone to be trusted, and also someone that is there to realize that their identity belongs with this program, or belongs with this computer, or belongs with this piece of knowledge, or belongs with this piece of content, or belongs with this product, or belongs with this service, okay? So you're starting to be a trusted advisor. Their identity is starting, because their knowledge is growing, their identity is starting to shift into the idea of, hey, maybe I am someone that can actually buy this sort of stuff. Maybe I am someone that has the knowledge that it requires me to have this sort of stuff in my life, okay? And basically they are starting to realize now as well that you are starting to give them more value. So unconsciously, they are starting to ascribe to you, when I'm with this person, I'm receiving more and more value, okay? So when it comes to actually asking for the money, when that part of the conversation comes up, if the computer that they were buying, or the program that they were buying, or if you're, you know, to the American guys, if it's the advertising, if that's what you're selling, and it comes to actually paying for that, they realize that, okay, cool. Unconsciously, they start to decide, I received a hell of a lot of value from this guy, and paying this price for whatever this person is selling, yeah, that's actually a pretty good price. I like that deal. Now, they aren't thinking that, they're not thinking that consciously. It's more of an unconscious process that they start to go to the back of their mind and start to solve for themselves while they're having the conversation with you, okay? Trust that makes sense. Now, by step 3, you've also gotten to the point where you can solve the problem for them completely, and also now you've gained permission to continue having the conversation, okay? You've gained the permission we spoke about before. You're no longer the guy at the door, knocking at the door trying to sell electricity. You're now starting to be a trusted advisor and a friend that should be listened to, okay? Pretty cool stuff, isn't it? When you start to realize, okay, this person's starting to listen to me, or if you're the buyer, you start to realize, hey, this person is someone that I can really trust with any sort of problem that I've got. I'll ask them the question, they'll solve it, they're here to help me, okay? Really cool stuff. Step 4, and this comes perhaps, you know, a little later on in the conversation. Step 4 is finding ways to link it to the higher value product or service that you always wanted to sell all along, okay? So instead of, you know, yeah, I'm just going to sell you this piece of knowledge and expertise that I have, now you've earned the right to say to them, look, if this is what you're after, and now that I've given you this knowledge and expertise, and this is the direction you want to head with that in mind, then what I want you to know is that this value, this product or service, this is probably what is going to be best for you to achieve those goals. And the person sitting there thinking, yeah, it all makes sense. I've got the new knowledge now. This person is a trusted advisor. They know what they're talking about. I feel as though I've been taken care of. I had an emotional experience before, unconsciously, that made me scared or made me excited, and then they solved that for me. They're a trusted advisor. He or she is probably right about moving forward with this next piece of bigger purchase, okay? Trust that is making sense. That's the 4 steps as an overall overall process to it all. I'm just going to refresh the questions here. So it's a 4-step process, and the thing is that you can do this over and over and over again. This can basically repeat itself. If you, throughout the conversation, you can repeat this process more than once. I strongly suggest doing it 8 to 10 times throughout a whole conversation, yeah? Frank says, caring builds trust. That's exactly right, okay? Maureen says, Charles says, I'm loving this. Awesome. Robert says, I'm loving this as well. Maureen says, is this the gap also the pain point? Yes, Maureen, it can be. Really, I get what you mean. So the gap in their knowledge or the gap in their education can be the pain point that you can say, hey, looks like this is going to cost you a bit if I don't actually help you with this right now. So can I actually, help you with this, give you this piece of information that will solve this problem for you? Of course they're going to say yes, and then you place yourself as a trusted advisor. Really good question. Maureen has also asked, what do you do if they ask, what are you selling / how much does it cost before you're ready to go to step 4? Let me just put that in a map for myself, Maureen. Okay, so what are you selling / how much does it cost before you're ready to go to step 4? Okay, cool. If these are the types of questions that people are asking more early on, particularly as I know that you're a coach. So if you're looking to sell a coaching program, if they basically ask you how much does it cost, there are ways around this, and I'll actually teach you this personally. I'm actually going to, I'll actually offer this to you at the end of the call on how to actually overcome this for your specific program. But there are ways around actually, like people will actually ask the cost really early on in a conversation. It actually happens a lot. And there are specific language patterns that we can implement to show them that the cost is actually not the important part at the moment. Because I tell you what, if they ask how much it costs and you just give it straight to them, chances are every time they won't buy because you haven't given them a reason to yet. You haven't given them a reason to trust you. You haven't given them a reason to believe that you're there to add value. And so if they're buying and selling on cost, then you'll also lose a lot of sales on the cost of your price as well, okay? The cost of your program. And I'll actually teach you how to do that later on. As I said, I'll let you know a really good option there, Moors. Really good question though. Okay, let's go. Back to, I just have to switch between my slides here, guys. That's why it takes a little bit. Next one, okay? So back here, and that's the helicopter ride over it all. Step 1, let's go back to it here. So we'll go through it once more so that you can really nail this and start implementing it in your sales conversation straight away, okay? First part is we begin by getting to a point in the conversation that our buyer has a knowledge gap around, okay? Find a knowledge gap. Start asking questions, easy questions where you're just like, hey, cool. So I'm just curious. So what are you here for? What are you after? What's the gap that you're having? What problem do you need solved? Find out about their gaps, their goals, their desires, okay? Just get to a point in the conversation where they realize that they have a knowledge gap. And it'll be really obvious. They'll either just tell you straight out, yeah, good question. Look, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that yet, okay? The key here is curiosity. Curiosity is massive here. The more questions that you can ask, the more they will feel cared for and the more they'll realize that you're there to find and fill their need. Cool? Third thing is that it must be a knowledge gap that if it was solved would save them both significant time, money, or both. Okay? Now, the reason this is so important, it'll either make them money or it'll save them money or it'll give them time or it'll save them time. Those two are sort of the same thing. Time is a funny thing, huh? So basically what you want to be able to do is to show them that if you do go with my cool thing, if you buy with me, I'm actually going to show you great ways that you'll make your return on investment, either through time or money, okay? Because that justifies anything to do with the price of your product. And this actually will help you out more with what you were asking before. It will help you out significantly when it comes to the cost of the thing, because not only are you showing them that they're also already receiving value, so unconsciously they're like, cool, good product, I'm in. But you'll also go on to show them that, yeah, also if you buy it, there's very high chances that you're going to make your money back and then some as well, okay? Really important when it comes to people that, particularly if you do find yourself having the conversation a lot on cost, if it goes to that a lot early, okay? Now remember, step 2 is to build the emotion. And this is pretty easy, guys. Step 2 to build the emotion is basically just asking simple questions like, cool, so I noticed that you said before you wanted a PC or a Mac. Is it? I'm just kind of curious. Do you not know the difference between the two? And they'll say, oh, kinda, and just ask questions like, okay, cool. I'm just kind of curious. Have you had a Mac before? Have you had a PC before? And they'll say, yeah, I had a PC. It just didn't work too well for me. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So it was a pretty crappy one. How long did it last you? Oh, it only lasted me about a year. Geez, how much did that cost you? It cost me about, say, $1,500, $2,000. Man, that's $2,000 down the drain. And they'll be like, yeah, I know. It sort of sucks. And so that person then now is like, yeah, you're right. I didn't have that knowledge before and it really cost me. Okay. So you've found an emotional point where you can basically build up the pain on what it costs them to not have this knowledge, okay? Knowing very well that in a moment you're going to solve the problem for them with your knowledge and expertise, and they're sitting there thinking, awesome, this person has actually solved that problem for me now, and I won't ever make that $2,000 mistake again. Unconscious value is starting to go up. It's now at $2,000. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's step 2. Or if it's a positive emotion, let's just say you're selling a coaching program. Again, I'll just go with that example. So cool. So tell me, have you worked with a coach before? No, I haven't. No, I don't really know even really what coaching is about. Cool. You've found an emotional and educational gap. Oh, right. So you haven't worked with a coach before. Have you ever worked with anyone that sort of helped you reach your goals before? No, I haven't. I don't really know anything about that either. Awesome. Do you know what it feels like to reach a goal? Oh, yeah, once. I used to play a lot of basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan. And we actually set a goal of, reaching this particular tournament, and we did it. And, our coach actually, our team coach actually helped a lot with that. Awesome, man. So you do know what it feels like to hit a goal. Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah, you're right. Cool. And you're starting to reach positive emotion, all right? The emotion is there. This is just example conversations happening for you. But you'll either build emotion on what it's cost them in the past or what it's going to give them if they do sign with you, okay? Or if you do actually give them the emotional gap that they're after, okay? So they're like, cool, yeah, I have worked with a coach before, and you solve it with step 3 when you say, yeah, cool. So what it actually is that working with a coach, just like you did with your basketball team, that's a lot like working with a coach. Basically now like motivational coach or a business coach or a sales coach. That's a lot like this, but it's actually in an area that's going to drive your time, your money even further forward. Does that sound like something you're interested in? And they'll say, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, awesome, man. I didn't realize that those two were the same thing. That's really cool. You've given them an educational gap and you've solved it, okay? Or if it's the PC or the Mac, you've then gone ahead and explained the difference between the two. And you can then show them that, hey, I've just solved that problem for you. Once again, all this time you are placing yourself as an authority because you're solving problems. You're showing that you're someone to be trusted and you're giving them unconscious value. You are ticking every box all the way through. You're making them a very, very happy person, okay? Step 3 is that it's then time to go into solve the problem completely, okay? Once again, so the education, I was just speaking about it, step 3. It's basically that where the person says, oh, you don't know the difference between a PC and a Mac. I've actually got this educational program that you can buy for $97 that actually explains the difference for you, okay? Now, if you have someone emotional enough about that problem, they'd actually spend the $97. It's true. They would spend the $97 to find out the difference between the two if they were emotionally involved or not. If there was a positive or negative emotion associated with having that education, they would buy it, okay? But no, you're going to step in and you're going to actually be the person that solves the problem for them there and then, okay? You solve it for them and they just go, wow, man, you actually care about me. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, I have that education. Thank you. I'm ready to make a decision now. Cool? The key here is to show enthusiasm and eagerness in solving the problem for them, okay? You want to solve the problem in a way that says, I'm excited to solve this problem for you. I'm not just doing this because it helps me sell. I'm actually here. I hear your problem and I actually know how to solve it. Can I please show you how to solve that problem? Can I please give you this education or this piece of knowledge or this piece of expertise that is actually going to solve that problem for you? It would actually make my day if I could solve that problem for you. You don't actually say these things, of course, but you show eagerness and enthusiasm in a way that shows, dude, I'm here for you. I actually want to help you with this educational gap. Cool? Trust that is making sense. Okay. The key here is to ensure, once again, we actually haven't sold anything at the moment. That has not been the case in any way at the moment. I trust you guys are seeing how this is different from any type of hard sell that you feel as though you need to get into. Okay. Now, you want to ensure that you're focusing on adding value, okay? It's nothing about going for the sale yet. It's all about adding value to show that you're a trusted advisor, you're here to add value, and you're here to help them realize that now that they've got this knowledge, they are worthy of, unconsciously worthy of purchasing the higher end product. Cool? Step 4, this is where the game is played, particularly with linking it back to your higher product, okay? Now, one of the main reasons that people won't buy is because they're also uncertain, okay? So when I was talking before about authority or unconscious value exchange or identity, it's not congruent with their identity. Basically, you want to be able to show them that through education and giving them pieces of insight and content, you can actually show them that it's okay to be certain moving forward. Because now that they have that educational gap solved, they have a lot more certainty within them about the decision they're about to make, okay? If the guy that wasted $2,000 on buying a PC when he should have bought a Mac walks into a store and is still feeling uncertain about which way to go, and you go ahead and solve that problem for him by showing, hey, it's probably a Mac that you're after instead. I trust you guys are liking the PC and Mac example. We've probably been working on that a bit. But if he realizes now, okay, I'm certain now about the type of computer that I want to go forward with, it actually is a Mac, all that uncertainty goes out the window. They're certain about their decision and they're then ready to make one, okay? The main reason people won't buy, and those 3 reasons we spoke about at the front all link up to it, is because there's just too much uncertainty to make a decision yet, okay? You want to be the example of delivering massive certainty to them, okay? Now, at step 4, what you want to be able to do is link the solved problem. So you've got a solved problem, and you want to link it back to a higher value product that you knew they were going to buy all along, okay? You knew that it was all about the PC. You wanted them to buy the $2,000 PC, or you wanted them to buy the they're usually more expensive, $2,500 Mac. So you knew that was what they were going to buy all along, and it's time to actually link it back up to, okay, cool. Sounds like a Mac that we're actually going to move forward with. How about we take a look at a couple, okay? And then it's a matter of which Mac do they buy, not do I buy, yes or no, okay? They're definitely going to make a decision. They're definitely going to be spending money with you today. It's just a matter of which product they actually buy. Pretty cool. So the key here is knowing how to smoothly and effortlessly transition from one conversation to the next, okay? The contrast here for you is typically when people will say, you know, cool, so I've solved that problem for you. Now that you've got that education, okay, which Mac do you want to buy? And the guy's sitting there and he goes, oh, okay, so this was a sales conversation all along. I thought that you were a trusted advisor. I thought that you cared about me. And now it's just so obvious that you were just here to just sell something to me all along. Man, I feel betrayed. They actually will feel betrayed if you don't know how to transition from one conversation to the next, okay? The proper way to do it would just be like, yeah, cool, man. So it's probably a Mac that you're after, okay? How about we take a look at those? Okay, and it's really easy, it's really flowy, it's just a simple question of how about we take a look at them? Oh, okay, or awesome, man. So it sounds like it is a Mac that you are after. They're actually over here, they're in actually this corner of the store. How about we take a look at them? And the guy says, yeah, cool, I'll take a look. And then the conversation continues from there, okay? Compare all of this that I've just covered with you, compare all of that to the contrast of the guy walks into the store and you say back to them, hey, which computer would you like to buy today? Yeah, there's just steps that need to go in place that say essentially, yeah, you're right. Okay, this as instead of actually just being someone here to sell, this person actually cares about me. And that is the ultimate type of person that we want to buy from. Now, what will happen if you can solve this problem for them, if you can solve these ideas, you'll consistently have these buyers coming back to you because you'll be placed as an authority in their mind. So when their computer breaks down, guess who they're going to come straight back to? Or if you're a coach, if they've got some sort of motivational issue they need a hand with, guess who they're going to call straight away? You know, if you sell advertising and they received a great experience previously and they want to work back into that field, guess who they're going to call straight away? It's the person that's given them value before, because remember, we continue to want more value when we've already received a lot of it, okay? Now, here's an extra thing that I'm thinking about adding this onto this for you. It's actually the idea of behavioral consistency throughout a sales conversation, okay? Now, throughout steps 1, 2, and 3, I just want to basically clarify this for you again, okay? Throughout steps 1, 2, and 3, whilst you are adding massive value, ensure that they realize that throughout the conversation, that once they have that knowledge, you need to actually commend them for it, or not necessarily like, blow steam, like what's the word? Blow wind up their ass or something like that. But it's not necessarily like that. It's basically just like, yeah, cool. So you get the difference. Do you get the difference now between a PC and Mac? Do you see also how having a basketball coach when you were younger is kind of exactly like having a motivational coach now? Do you get that? And they'll start to say, yeah, I do. I get that. Thank you very much. You always want to check in, because once they can actually language, yes, I do get it, that what they're essentially saying is, yes, that is now part of my identity. Yes, that is now who I am, okay? And it is highly powerful when they actually say out loud. You actually want to get them to say out loud, yes, that makes sense to me, okay? Yes, I do get that. Yes, that is part of my identity. That isn't what you get them to say at the end, that identity thing, but it's basically what they're implying, okay? And that's throughout steps 1, 2, and 3. It's important to actually get them to say that, okay? Because when it comes back to actually making making the sale with the product or the service, what you're able to do is present your product to them, and they're going to be sitting there listening to it thinking, yes, I'm worthy of having this conversation. I do know what I'm talking about now. I do have the consistency. I have the certainty within me that says, yes, okay, I'm ready to have this conversation. I'm ready to decide which Mac I want to buy. Not, I'm really uncertain about whether I need a new PC or a new Mac, or whether I even want to buy anything today. Cool? Trust that makes sense. Just going to quickly check on these questions coming through. Refreshing here. All right. Whoa, lots of questions. Okay. I'll go through these. Let's bring them on through. Okay, this is massive. All right. Frank says, I think a huge part of building that trust is speaking to them in a language they understand, not using scary language, so to speak. Absolutely. This is the thing. If you're an expert in your field, really, this is a really good comment, Frank. If you're an expert in your field, what you want to be aware of is that you most likely know so much more than your prospective buyer. And it can be a thing common in sales that when you realize that you know a lot about your field, you can sometimes forget that the rest of the world doesn't know as much as you do. Has anyone ever had that experience? You can start to realize that, yeah, okay, I get you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this problem for you. And you quite often you can start to use language that is jargonish, and it's industry specific language that everyone in your industry gets, but someone that is cold to your product or service doesn't necessarily get. So make sure you are speaking to them on their language and their level in a way that ensures that they get it, not in a way that just makes you look smart. Okay, cool. Really good question, Frank. I love that. Okay. Coming on through. Tash says, if I'm selling a specific program, do I need to make up some other options to look at? Tash, I would highly suggest it. Either have other options to look at, or if you have one program, have multiple payment options in order to pay it off. Cool. Again, I'm going to have an offer at the end of this webinar that will help you exactly with that. So feel free to take advantage of that. You'll see exactly what I mean in around about, say, 10 minutes time. Moore says, solving the problem is awesome and different from anything else I thought. E.g., just give them a part of the solution. It builds trust. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, Moore. Really good comment, Moore. What you want to be able to do is, as a salesperson, as a professional salesperson, what you want to be able to do is constantly be the example of someone that is solving problems for people, okay? Anytime you write a blog, ensure that it solves a problem. Anytime you post a video, ensure that it solves a problem. Anytime that you're in a sales conversation, ensure that you're solving problems. That is what you get paid to do. That's what your product or service is there to do. Cool? All right, back to it. Loving it. Really good comments and questions coming through, guys. So the result of all of this, and we've spoken about this throughout the conversation, is that the result of all of this is that the salesperson now, you as a salesperson, you're now placed as an authority and a trusted advisor in the buyer's mind, okay? And the buyer now unconsciously associates you with higher and higher levels of value, okay? So when it comes to ask for money, unconsciously, they believe they've received more value than the asking price of your product or service. How cool is that, yeah? Now, also, if you've built consistency within the conversation, if you've ensured that they've said out loud, yeah, I get that. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, I understand. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Yep, I get it. They are deciding now that basically that knowledge is congruent with their identity, okay? So the 3 reasons that people weren't buying from you originally, they are now out of the window. They don't matter anymore, and they can no longer be a reason not to buy. So all that it takes when you get to that step 4 of asking, like, cool, so how does that all sitting with you? Or how would you like to move forward? What are you thinking? How are we doing? How would you like to move forward with this? They no longer can have that feeling of like incongruency, or they can't feel as though they can't trust you. They can't feel as though the value for money isn't there. So they kind of don't have any reason to say no anymore. And they're sitting there going, yeah, it looks like a really great idea. It looks like a great deal. You look like you know what you're talking about. You look like someone that I can absolutely buy from and will get great value from. Okay? Now, once again, if you do this 4-step process, you don't just do this once throughout the conversation. The more you do it, the more these results are seen as a result of doing that process. That just made no sense, that sentence just then. The more, I'll try again. The more that you do that, the more that you run that process, the more these results are seen in their mind as the buyer. That's what I should have said. That's what I meant to say the first time, yeah? Cool. So the conversation continues as per normal after you do these 4 steps. It's not, okay, I'm at the end of step 4. I hope that they buy now. It's just, cool, that was just a little 4-step thing that I did that is now placing me unconsciously as a trusted advisor, fair value giver, consistency giver. And it can take this 4-step process. It can take 1 minute, can take 10 minutes, might take 20 minutes if you need to go find out some information from someone else. And you might do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the same conversation, 10 times in the same conversation if you really feel like it. And consciously and constantly you are adding value, okay? Now a step here is that the more emotion that you build at step 2 around them having an educational gap, the more emotion built at step 2, the more the value the buyer will feel as a result of being with you, okay? Because they're feeling a lot, we describe value with emotion. The more that we feel something within us and the more that we get excited or the more we feel pain, when that problem is solved or when that problem is recognized or when that positive emotion is like taken care of and it's basically realized fully within someone is like, yeah, that feels great, okay? The more emotion that we feel, the more value we ascribe to that emotion, okay? So the more emotion you build, the more the buyer will associate those 3 things that we spoke about before: trusted advisor, consistency giver, and some of these constantly adding value. Cool? Now, what I want to do, and this is what I was speaking to you before, so Moors, Tash, I think you asked a question as well. What I want to be able to do for you guys, this is just a special offer that I'm going to offer to you right on this call, is leading up to the live training. We have a live tonal persuasion method training. This is just one tiny part of the tonal persuasion method, by the way. The live tonal persuasion method training is the entire day training where I teach you, this, as I said, this is about 1/3 of the entire training. So what I actually want to invite you to do is ensure that you're including this in your sales conversations easily moving forward. I want you to know the educational gaps that you can have in a conversation, and I want you to be able to overlay the tonal persuasion method over on top of it. We didn't even get to, on this call, the power of actual tonalities, which gives the tonal persuasion method its name. The tonalities that you can actually introduce into a sales conversation to completely supercharge this whole process. I want to overlay that for you. So what I want to invite you to do is just email me personally. That's my personal email address. So it's just darcy@tonalpersuasionmethod.com. So it's DARCY at TONALPERSUASIONMETHOD.com, tonalpersuasionmethod.com, with count me in. And just make that like the subject line or something like that. And then in the email, just write count me in as well. And I'll get in touch with you personally. What I want to do is actually work with you for 20 minutes to ensure that you have this like knocked down. It's in your grasp. You can go ahead and use it straight away in the next sales conversation with complete clarity, complete certainty, okay? Now, again, I sent out an email earlier in this week for a similar thing. And if we went forward with this, I said in the email, we'd be basically working until Christmas. So I am going to limit it to 10 places. And I've just had an email come through already. Someone was very quick. So that's darcy@tonalpersuasionmethod.com. Count me in. We'll work for 20 minutes together and we'll absolutely smash it out for you. Limited to 10 places. And I really look forward to working with you on that. For those of you that are coming to the live training in December, I really look forward to having you in the room where we go even deeper on this model as well. And you guys are going to be rocking with it in your business. You're going to be trusted advisors. You're going to be constantly giving value. And you're gonna have to be okay with, I trust you are, be okay with moving away from that hard sell, that idea of forcing people into buying that just doesn't need to be happening anymore. And you can just be someone that constantly gives value in a way that has the sales making themselves, which is pretty cool. I trust that that would be of massive value to you. So feel free to send through those emails. I'm just quickly checking questions again. Cool. So awesome. I think that's all. There is a slight delay, so I'm going to stick around for like another 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure all your questions are covered. If you do have anything more, please keep sending it through. I'll make sure you're completely taken care of here. I just have to keep refreshing while this happens. All right. I trust that that will help you, Tash, and help you, Moors. That was the offer that I was speaking about before. I trust that that will help you a lot. Tash, you'll get a lot of this at the live training yourself. Obviously, we've spoken about that, but I want to be able to help you with it even sooner because I know how much it'll mean for you in your business moving forward with that. So just refreshing here. I've had the habit of jumping off a webinar once or twice too early when there was a question that came through later, so I'm sticking around. All right, keep them coming through. Cool, got a couple of questions coming through here. All right. Cool. Tash, if you just quickly send me through an email, I'll make sure you're taken care of there. Awesome. Okay, cool. That looks like as many questions are coming through, guys. That's awesome. Now, if there is anything, as I said, anything else I can do for you, please feel free to send me an email. I'll make sure you're taken care of. And I look forward to working with you for 20 minutes to smash this out in your business. Enjoy, guys, and I look forward to connecting with you really soon. Enjoy. Bye.